This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman.
This is Will Friedle, the voice of the future Dark Knight, Batman Beyond.
And you're listening to the DCAU Review, hosted by Cal and Liam.
Streaming at DCAUreview.com and on your favorite podcast app.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 358 of the DCAU Review. I am Liam. With me, as he always is my co-host and my brother, Cal. Cal, it's the 5th Saturday of this month of May, at least at the time of original airing of this episode, and therefore, it feels like the first time. Well, we did a whole Elseworlds month this year, so what I'm about to say is inaccurate. But we haven't had a 5-Saturday month, or at least not too many this year, so we're taking a trip around the multiverse, as it were, and we've landed on probably the biggest disparity between how much a show is beloved and how many episodes of it we've covered on this show. And that is, we are finally back in the world of Teen Titans for this here Elseworlds week in the last week of May.
That's right. Yeah, we've covered a lot more, like Batman Brave and the Bold. We've done The Batman. We've done an entire month to the most recent Batman cartoon, Batman Caped Crusader. We've gone all the way around the multiverse a couple of times, it feels like. But Teen Titans, as you said, despite the legendary status that it has, only, I believe, twice before have we visited Teen Titans for a review, but we are beginning to right that wrong, as it were. Fear not, Teen Titans enthusiasts, as we'll try and dip more into Teen Titans in the future, because obviously it's happening right around the time, as far as real world here, when it originally debuted. It's happened around the same time that Justice League was on the air. So many crossover fan appeal, I would say, for those that are tuning in for our Justice League reviews. We're probably fans of the Teen Titans series going on at the same time. So happy to cover this episode this week. And as we mentioned last week, Liam, this one has a connection for a specific reason that we kind of just happened to fall into, but it makes it seem like we purposely did that. But the episode we're covering today is the episode Deep Six, which is a season 1 episode of Teen Titans. And as we'll get into here, features a guest star, but also features, this episode, by the way, you probably, based on our guest star, could have originally appeared in Aqua Phantasmonth if we had thought about it. But, we had those episodes covered. Perhaps in a future Aqua Phantasmonth, we will utilize our guest star here. But this episode written by Marv Wolfman, who celebrated his birthday just a few weeks ago here, at least at the original time of recording. The great Marv Wolfman, of course, who is responsible for writing maybe the quintessential storylines from that new Teen Titans era, from that comic series. A lot of the go-to and memorable storylines from that original Teen Titans run, along with George Perez, co-creator of Cyborg and Raven and Starfire, Slade, never heard of him. All of those characters created by Mr. Wolfman, who was born May 13th, 1946. So happy belated birthday, Mr. Wolfman. And we're celebrating that, as you mentioned, by our trip around the multiverse with this episode, Deep Six, which originally aired on September the 13th, 2003.
Absolutely, and we will get into our full plot synopsis plus our scores for our 4 categories in just a moment here. But first, we will regale us with a little bit of housekeeping as I will regale us with the official IMDb synopsis for this episode. As Cal mentioned, it is the episode Deep Six, which was written by Marv Wolfman, directed by Alex Soto, with music by Lolita Ritmanis, and animation by Dong Wu. And before I get to that synopsis, we must of course remind the listeners, Cal, that there's one great, simple, and effective way that you could support us that's kind of head and shoulders above the rest as far as ways to support the pod. And that's if you head to buymeacoffee.com/DCAU review.
That's right. The official sponsor of the IMDb synopsis this week is buymeacoffee.com/DCAU review. Head over today if you want to support the podcast. You have a couple of different ways that you can support the podcast. You can support the podcast with a one-time support option, or you can become a recurring monthly supporter of the pod. And there are a couple different levels to support the podcast monthly. Each of those levels come with some really neat perks. Of course, the higher the tier, the more perks that you receive, including our top 10 Super Friend tier, the Super Friend tier. By the way, we've never covered Super Friends on this podcast, yet we have one of our levels of support named after that show. Maybe we should rectify that in the future. Super Friend podcast tier, though, comes with all of the perks from every other level, but also includes one very special exclusive podcast perk, which gets you the ability to ask us a question about the episode that we are reviewing that week, and we will answer your question on the air. We do have a question of the week, once again, that we'll answer a little bit later in the pod this week. But if you would like to get that opportunity to ask your own question about the pod, about the episode that we're reviewing on the pod, we invite you to head over to buymeacoffee.com/DCAU review and join the growing list of supporters today.
Absolutely. And so this is the synopsis for Deep Six, and it reads as such: the Titans go after Trident, an undersea criminal, with the assistance of Aqualad.
An undersea criminal.
An undersea criminal, which I suppose, I mean, he's doing he's very much doing crime both over and under the sea, as I think we'll get. It's not always better down where it's wetter, as the crab from the Little Mermaid. Is he a crab or a lobster? What's the guy from the Little Mermaid?
Sebastian, he is a crab, I believe.
Okay, look what Sebastian says. But yes, that will bring us into our plot recap here. We get Teen Titans. One of the cool things I think they did to differentiate themselves from some of the other DC shows of its era, we get like a cold open before the theme song. Mm-hmm. So we open up on a dark and stormy night. We got some guys right out of one of those like Alaskan fishing boat reality shows that were very popular for a while in the 2010s. Some guys out, and they just have a bunch of cans of toxic waste, as you do.
Watch it! Any of that toxic junk goes into the bay, we're all in deep trouble! Lash that down! What are you?
I am excellence. I am perfection. I am Trident.
Ah! Hey! He's everywhere! Abandon ship! Abandon ship!
That's the only thing they're transporting, it appears, but they're transporting by ship, and we see the captain trying to keep the boat steady in the water. Keep the boat in the water, as the Joker once said, and he's doing his best, and he's reminding the other workers, his crew on the ship, that they had better be careful and not to let any of that toxic waste spill into the ocean, because that would be bad for them and presumably for the ocean as well. But almost as soon as he can make that warning, we begin to see mysterious figures cloaked in shadow boarding the ship, including and they seem to be all holding this trident, or we see what appears to be one, I should say. We're not supposed to know yet, but it's multiples. So we see, finally, he reveals himself to the captain, this big, ugly-looking fish man. We'll talk about him in visuals certainly later, and what his motifs are all about. But he reveals himself to be Trident, aptly named because he's also holding a trident, and it begins to glow with bright white energy, which blinds the captain. And when the captain opens his eyes, seemingly Trident has disappeared. But then we see him on one side of the boat and then the other side of the boat, and he's just taking cans of this toxic waste and damaging the ship as it goes. And it's clear that nobody on this ship is ready to deal with whatever the heck is going on with this Trident fellow, which brings us to our theme song, of course, which we'll definitely talk about later as well. And as we break from the theme song, we cut back to Titan's Tower, where we see the Titans are heading to investigate this. And they've got a new toy. Literally, this was a toy that they sold. But it's the new T ship, or the T sub, as it's known here. Eventually, this is kind of like their Legion of Doom thing, because this also flies in space later. But
okay.
But yes, at this point it's just a sub, I believe, as it's broken into 5 compartments. Everybody gets their own little cockpit as they fly, with Robin front and center and the other Titans surrounding them as they drop down into the water to investigate. We see the wreckage from the aforementioned ship on the bottom of the sea. Beast Boy very excited about this mission because unlike the rest of the Titans, as he is gloating to Cyborg, he can transform into animals that can breathe underwater.
And your secret weapon is ready to rock.
Only time you qualify as a secret weapon is after eating a tofu bean burrito.
Excuse me, but can you breathe underwater? Can you be any fish in the sea? Didn't think so.
Beast Boy's right. His skills are essential to our mission.
We have to find out what this Trident guy is planning. If it takes 40 barrels of toxic waste, I doubt it's environmentally friendly. Titans, launch!
Ooh, wondrous. If you think they're cool, wait till you see me out there kicking butt. First I'm going shark. Hey, is this thing on? Hey, cut it out!
Goodness me! I seem to have accidentally switched off Beast Boy's microphone.
Could you go ahead and accidentally leave it off?
So he gets to be the one that sort of investigates the ship more close up, while the other Titans have to remain in the sub. He's very proud, very smug, which kind of becomes the theme of the episode, is Beast Boy sort of chasing the glory of what he thought was going to be his time to shine here. As he arrives, we see another mysterious shadowy figure floating around inside, seemingly investigating the sub. But before they could really investigate too much further, Beast Boy takes off following this mysterious figure out of the water. And as the Titans are sort of sitting there watching Beast Boy swim away after this person, they get attacked by Trident himself, as they realize that it must have been some sort of diversion. And so Trident kind of makes quick work of their ship. They're not able to get a beat on him. He keeps seemingly disappearing and reappearing behind them whenever they try to shift around to take a shot at him with the ship's weapons. So they're a little bit out of sorts. Looks like the ship is being damaged. And as Beast Boy finally catches up to the other mysterious floating figure in the water, he finds out that he has telepathy, and that he informs Beast Boy that his friends are indeed in quite a bit of mortal danger, as their ship is being damaged and they're sinking. And here's where we get the reveal of Aqualad in his mulleted glory, and he informs them that, and this is sort of where we get to the crux of the episode. There's sort of a budding rivalry forming between Beast Boy, who's a little bit jealous of how sort of at home and in his element, quite literally, Aqualad is, as he not only is able to fight with Trident, but ultimately uses his telepathy to call on the help of a couple of whales to help rescue the T ship, which was sinking rapidly, and he's able to save them and take them into an underwater cave, I guess. In time. And here's where we get our official introductions, as he announces that he's Aqualad, and that the guy that they've been fighting is this mysterious man named Trident. They're both from Atlantis, which Raven appears to already know about. She's like, "Oh, you're from Atlantis," so I guess it makes sense. If anyone would know about Atlantis, it would be her. So that works clearly. And then there's also this is very, very briefly touched on throughout the episode, but as like a small comedic subplot to this is that Raven and Starfire are just immediately in love with Aqualad because he's this rad, handsome surfer dude.
That's the hunky newcomer.
Lives. That's exactly right.
Beautiful.
It's not beautiful. It's totaled. Oh, man, I never even got to use the seismic blasters.
Where are we?
My place. I told the whales to bring you here.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, yes, truly, truly. Thank you so much for saving us.
He saved you? Hello? I was there too, you know.
You stopped Trident from kebabbing us with that souped-up shrimp fork?
Way to go!
Well, I was gonna, but...
I'm Aqualad. Sorry I didn't introduce myself earlier. We Atlanteans try to keep a low profile.
Good job. Don't think anybody even noticed you.
You are from Atlantis?
And so is Trident.
Perfectly described there. And so as they're sort of describing what's going on, Beast Boy and him continue to kind of have a little bit of an argument, but Aqualad calls on his friend Tram, who's this weird little fish guy who kind of is like Yed from Return of the Jedi. At least that's kind of how he talks. And Aqualad informs them that Tram can help them fix the T-sub up, but that in the meantime, while the Titans are sort of stranded in this cave until they can fix their ship, that he needs to go investigate whatever it is that Trident's up to, which is where kind of Beast Boy also takes issue with that and kind of wants to do his own investigation. And so much to both of their chagrins, Robin insists that they actually go together, and as he assumes two heads must be better than one here, to go try and find Trident, while the rest of the air-breathing Titans are stranded and left behind.
And while he's helping you, I'll track down Trident.
You mean I'll track down Trident?
That's okay, I can handle
Thanks,
it.
but I think
Seriously, I'll take care of it.
Would you just get out of my... Let me go!
Guys,
why don't you both go track him down together?
I usually work alone.
Yeah, me too.
You do not. You're part of a team.
And you hang out with Tram the fish boy. What's your point?
Hey, arguing isn't going to stop Trident. Now get out and search, both of you.
That's right. Yeah. And it goes as well as you would imagine, two rivals being forced to team up on the same team and work for one common good. It's very clear Beast Boy's very upset over the fact that the girls on the team are enamored with Aqualad, and he is sort of puffing his chest out both figuratively and literally at times, to try and impress and kind of make himself the star there. So when they're forced to team up, we get a couple of sequences where they're racing through the water, trying to best each other and see who's going to come out on top when it comes to racing. Initially, as he's transformed into a dolphin, Beast Boy believes he's found Trident, but in fact he actually just finds other dolphins. Aqualad then talks to those dolphins and gets information on where that they believe that Trident is, so they begin racing towards him. And as they're coming up closer on him, Trident notices that Beast Boy has gotten far enough ahead where he's going to collide with Trident, but Beast Boy's not paying attention. Despite trying to call out to him, Beast Boy literally runs right into Trident, and Trident begins his attack against Aqualad and Beast Boy, who are quickly on their heels. Trident seemingly feels like he can be in two places at once as he's doing battle with both of our Titans, our Titan and our guest star here at the same time, and they travel down deeper into the ocean after it appears that Trident has gotten away. They follow him into this deep cavernous area deeper into the heart of the ocean. And as they're chasing after him, they both insist that they come to this fork in the road, and they both insist that they have seen him go the opposite way. So they, of course, are not going to agree with each other per the plot necessity. So they split up and insist that they know exactly where Trident is. And wouldn't you know, they both come to a head and engage with him further. Once they've done battle and believe that they've both successfully defeated him, Beast Boy has a supposition as to what's going on and why they seem to be both battling Trident at two places at once.
I just saw Trident.
No, you didn't. Yes, I did.
Cut it out.
I don't care what you saw. I fought Trident.
That's impossible.
Okay, dude, what is your problem?
What is your problem? We're supposed to be on the same side, but you treat me like an enemy.
I don't need you on my side. This was my mission until you showed up. You think you're so cool, but I've got a news flash for you. You're not better than me.
I don't think I'm better than you.
You don't?
Maybe you're better than me. Who cares? I just want to catch Trident. And to do that, we need to stop fighting and start working together.
Working together? Aqualad, what if there's more than one Trident?
Don't be ridiculous. How could there be?
I know, but what if there is? If he found a way to copy himself? He could be in two places at once. There wouldn't be just one Trident. There'd be...
thousands.
And they stumble upon what appears to be a gigantic bunch of eggs. What do you call a group of eggs? It's not a nest.
Barton? No.
I guess it is a nest. A nest full of unhatched eggs, which appeared to be clones of Trident. And we learn, of course, that Trident has decided that since one Trident is perfect, an army of Tridents would be even better. So initially, there's only a handful of those Tridents that are hatched, and both Beast Boy and Aqualad have to team up to try and defeat them. But it's very clear very quickly that they are going to be overwhelmed if they try to do hand-to-hand combat. So Beast Boy has an idea, despite, by the way, they accidentally stumbled into or were thrown into a computer during this fight with these few loose Tridents, and began a countdown that's going to hatch all of the eggs, the entire Trident army. So they're a bit up against it at this point. So Beast Boy uses his brain to trick the initial Trident into arguing with the other Tridents as to which Trident is the superior Trident, which works as they begin all fighting amongst each other and demanding that they are the top Trident. They fight themselves into being incapacitated. So then Beast Boy and Aqualad only have to worry then about the countdown that's ensuing. They are unable to, unfortunately, stop the computer before the hatching begins, which once again puts Aqualad and Beast Boy on their heels as they begin to make it towards the surface. On their way up, they announce that they have to worry about blocking off the cave to make sure that the army of Tridents does not escape. Beast Boy himself is only concerned at that point about whether or not they're even going to reach the mouth of the cave. They are able to get there with the army of Tridents hot on their trail, and just when it looks like the Tridents are going to escape, which, by the way, the whole plot that the army of Tridents have hatched at this point is they're going to conquer the underworld, conquer Atlantis, and then they're going to take to the surface and conquer the rest of the world. So high stakes here when it comes to our heroes here stopping this army. And as they escape the cave and seemingly are at their wits' end as to what is going to stop this army of Tridents, the T-Sub appears, thankfully.
Work like a charm. Nice repair job, Tramp.
Good thing Trident likes himself so much. because I'm thinking he won't see anybody else for a long time.
With everybody in their proper seats, including Tram, who is sitting in Beast Boy's seats. He's got the T-sub working. Not only that, but he's got the weapons repaired, and they're able to shoot some of these cannons that are on the T-sub to cover the mouth of the cave up with a mountain of rocks, thus trapping the army of Tridents in there into a watery grave, I suppose. and all's well that ends well here, as we see the Titans celebrating at that, and then we get a little postscript of the Titans welcoming Aqualad to the team, sort of, once again at the surface.
That's right. Yeah, we get a little postscript. We get a little bit more of a Starfire and Raven, almost to the point of it making Aqualad uncomfortable, just being, they're almost literally floating off of the ground with hearts. I mean, they do literally have hearts in their eyes. We'll talk about that in visuals perhaps, but yes, as he's discussing things, Robin thanks him for all his help and gives him, I think this has to be the first instance in the series which becomes a recurring theme, which is he gives him one of those cool little communicators, which I wanted so bad. I don't know if they ever made a toy of the communicator, but he gives him one. He tells him he's an honorary Teen Titans, and it even plays a little jingle.
Consider yourself an honorary Teen Titan. We couldn't have done it without you. Thanks.
Right back at you. It's good to know there's people up here I can trust.
And it's good to know there's folks down there who can fix a hyperjet.
Bye, Raven. Starfire.
It was nice to meet you.
Oh, very, very, very nice.
What can I say, dude? You're the best.
Nah, you're the best.
Yeah, you're right. And if you ever want me to prove it, I'm always up for a race.
Just try and keep up.
He and Beast Boy have a little bit of a makeup here where they discuss that they're both maybe the best, although Beast Boy can't quite let it go and challenges him to one last race to prove who's really superior in the water. And we see them running off the coast of the Titans Tower Island, about to jump back into the water, and we get a freeze frame on them. But this time they're a little bit more joyous and less angry at each other, as we quite literally fade to black. So yeah, as you may have noticed, based on how quick our plot synopsis was this week, this is a very action-heavy episode. So talking about its plot, it's about as bare bones as you get. You know, evil fish man steals some chemicals, and he wants to take over the world. And then the main driving force being, Beast Boy developing this sort of this rivalry with Aqualad, kind of like you said, being the hunky newcomer. He's kind of a bit more of a jock than Beast Boy, so Beast Boy is kind of is dealing with his own like inferiority complex, and ultimately they put aside their differences and save the day. And the villain's hubris and need to be thought of as perfect is his own downfall, of course. So it's fine. I just feel like it's so bare bones that I had very little to talk about in the plot, like in my plot notes, just because like it's like other than the aesthetic stuff. Like, this is obviously, to this series, this is the first time you're introducing the idea of Atlanteans. Like I said, this is kind of the first big from the comics guest star episode with Aqualad here. So that's momentous in that way. It's a momentous episode for the series. This character obviously comes back a whole bunch more in the series, ends up on the sister Titans team, the Titans East team that they set up in later seasons. But as a standalone episode, as how we kind of drop in on these Elseworlds, I was like, wow, yeah, this was pretty basic. Like it is kind of super frenzy. It's funny that you mentioned that earlier. It's like, yeah, it is almost that simple. There's a bit more action and maybe a bit more stakes than you would get in a Super Friends episode. But yeah, it's very simple, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a paint by numbers is what kind of came to mind when I was thinking about how to describe this episode. Like you
Mm.
have your introduction of the guest star at the beginning. You have the reason for your one of your members to be jealous or to not like that guest star. They, of course, then are forced to team up and create the odd couple aspect there, or the budding rivals forced to be friends. And then ultimately at the end, they buddy up, and everybody's happy, hunky dory, and we welcome our guest star as an honorary member. And but there's still, of course, a spirited rivalry between the two that's emphasized at the end with them racing. So that it's now rivals as friends, as teammates versus rivals as adversaries at the end. So yeah, I think I as I was watching this, especially when you get to the part where Trident has a cave full of clone eggs that are all hatching or threatening to hatch with a countdown, I was just immediately, I was like, this would be like, this reads like a comic book, or this watches like a comic book. Like this would be a fine, you flip through it, you got some action sequences in the middle, some stuff that kind of fills in a couple of the panels with, the travel sequences of them racing underwater. And but generally speaking, it is the plot is not very deep, pun intended here, for our deep six episode, and that's okay, right? We can have, there are episodes that are just, it's okay to have fun. Like this ultimately is just the good guys end up fighting the bad guy, and ultimately the bad guy's little co-guest star sidekick fixes the T-sub, and the Titans win in the end, and everybody goes home happy. So yeah, I don't know that this is one that I would put in the top tier of all of the episodes that I remember from Teen Titans thus far. It's fine. There was nothing offensive about it. It's also, I think, juxtaposed against what I remember from the two episodes that we've reviewed thus far, which was the first episode of the series, and then the Red X episode. Those are pretty serious episodes from my recollection. Like they're pretty deep. This one is a little bit more lighthearted, which I know is the general way this show went. Like there were episodes that were very serious and dealt with very serious things, and all the characters, even if there was some comedy quips and interspersed throughout the episode, the episodes tended to be a little more serious and heavy. But then there were episodes that were straight lighthearted because it was seemingly geared to a little bit of a younger audience than Justice League Unlimited or Justice League when this was going on. So I think that also makes sense. So yeah, for all those reasons, I gave plot a 5 out of 10. I think it is perfectly fine. I do like that they didn't try to do too much with the rest of the team. They do kind of sequester most of our Titans. This is a very Beast Boy episode, obviously, with our guest star. So I think maybe being able to see Aqualad interact with a couple of those other characters outside of the girls swooning over him would have been maybe a little bit more interesting. But I know this isn't the only episode that Aqualad appears on, as you mentioned. So I'm sure there's time for that later on here. So really getting this rivalry between Aqualad and Beast Boy and setting that up and having it pay off with them ultimately being best buds at the end is fine. So 5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I give it the exact same score. I like it. Like I said, I remember really it's just all about, I think the novelty of getting our first big DC Comics guest star, and like you said, just the unique location of it being, it taking place, 95% of it taking place underwater is certainly a unique environment. But as far as what actually happens in the episode, not a lot to write home about. And again, maybe given the fact that we had such a famous comic book scribe who, as you mentioned, was part of some of the kind of a really important. I mean, there's an era where New Teen Titans is like the highest selling comic in all of comics. So certainly Mr. Wolfman's work is is legendary on its own. But yeah, for I like I said, I think there's something kind of nice and symmetrical about bringing him in to write the first Aqualad episode
For
here.
sure.
But yeah, they definitely kept it like you said, and I think as a point of difference to the Justice League show and whatever reruns there might have been of the older stuff at that point, this was definitely, I think at this point especially, aimed at the younger audience, the TVY7 audience. So I think there was a sort of a specific reason to kind of keep things lighter, even though yes, certainly as the season went on, the plots maybe got more complex as they went. But yeah, nothing wrong with it. Just as you said, I think paint by numbers is about as perfect a way to describe it as possible. And from there, that will move us on to our second category, which is, of course, visuals and animation. We have Alex Soto as the director for this week, and Dong Wu Animation, who we've certainly talked about from time to time on this show as well. I mean, I feel like, again, because it's an Elseworld, we haven't covered 100 times before, like some of our others favorites, like you mentioned, Cal. I'm always just struck by just getting back into the feel of the character designs and there's it's just vibrant and bright color everywhere, and the kind of the general design of the show. We've talked about it, I'm sure, in previous episodes, the sort of the idea of the animation style being this fusion of sort of Western animation and Eastern animation, the Murakami, as it was known, obviously Glenn Murakami being the kind of the showrunner and head producer of this show. So that's always what kind of sticks out to me. Like the T-ship design is that feels like very Voltron or something, or not, Voltron's the lion one, but any one of those shows, like any one of those animes where like there's a bunch of people all piloting like a single thing together, that feels very anime, and the design is pretty neat. And then as you pointed out, a pretty obvious classic movie monster impact on our villain.
Yeah, I think very first thing that you see, which I wrote down in my notes, was Trident is the creature from the Black Lagoon, which I was not familiar with the Trident character from the comics. So we did our research beforehand, and you were spot on. This guy did not look like the creature from the Black Lagoon. He kind of looks like a dude in a mask with a weird hat, and so redesigning him for this to kind of fit, it definitely looks more like a Glenn Murakami style monster type character, and then obviously drawing off of maybe the most famous movie monster of all time, maybe the original movie monster, or one of the original movie monsters with the creature from the Black Lagoon, obviously water-based villain with that. So would make sense that you pay a little homage here, especially in that opening sequence. That opening sequence actually was maybe my favorite from the episode. There's just so much that's going on with that, with the different characters popping up and in shadow, and then obviously you're setting the table here, as you mentioned, for the cold open, which I think, so this is airing around the time Justice League Unlimited started doing that as well. So I'm wondering which came first, whether or not Justice League Unlimited saw that and was like, hey, we should borrow that and start doing more cold opens or what. But having the cold open there to kind of set the table and really create this, it's kind of spooky. Like this creature literally is jumping out of the water and seems to be in multiple places at once. And the guys you feel kind of the terror and the fear of the whole crew of that ship. And as all of that's going on, it's raining and the rain's going sideways, and lightning, of course, and all of that is creating tension. But I thought that sequence was really, really great. I really enjoyed that. But that's not the only character that had an homage, although the other our guest star for the episode, he's kind of homaging his patriarchal figure in the comics, being Aquaman with the suit design, as you looked at, as you mentioned before we went on the air.
Yeah, that's right. This is the ocean camouflage Aquaman suit, which was I think originated in one of the 80s Aquaman comics. It doesn't really, I guess, yeah, it's supposed to be like his stealth suit, I guess, basically. Seems to take quite a bit of design from there with the blue and black coloring. with like the white streaks across it, which is I love the look of this Aqualad. He's also got like inverted eyes, so his pupils are these white dots, and his the whites of his eyes are pitch black. So he has this idea that he spends a lot of time away from the sun. I feel like is or like maybe his particular. Obviously, as we see between him and Trident, there are many different races and species that call Atlantis home. So, which I think we kind of saw again in the live action Aquaman movies. So, I like the idea of him being like, oh, he just has weird dark eyes. Maybe his tribe doesn't see the surface as often. So I love that as a design, and he's got Nightwing's mullet. So
yeah,
I like that was stuck in there as well. So I love that design. And I think he stands out immediately. Again, a lot of the stuff they do in silhouette, like you already mentioned in the opening scene, and then when they're first investigating the sub and Beast Boy's sort of chasing after him when you're not quite sure who Aqualad is yet. This is maybe a combination visual and sound design thing, but we also do get the classic. I like that we've kind of just kept the Super Friends telepathy idea, no matter what version of Aquaman we get. So we get the kind of the white circles that go across the screen. We kind of get like a ripple effect on the camera, and it distorts a little bit whenever he sort of begins to do it, and then it the sonar sound effect that goes along with that. So I like that's like a multiversal constant, if you will, for how the Aqua family telepathy works. So
it's got that same sound effect too. I always talk about where to insert the sound effect thing, but it's always that same high pitched, almost like a sonar sound from the same sound effect they use as sonar for a submarine sound effect.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I love that's that tradition is carried on here. Tram is a fun little guy too. Like I love he's just like this weird little fish man in overalls. Like again, I feel like I'm always drawn to the character designs when we come back to some of these shows that we don't cover as
original
often.
Character too, from my understanding, right? Because
yes.
I was looking, I was like, is this guy? Because it feels like one of those things from a Silver Age where they gave like Aquaman a weird buddy to talk to or something like that before they gave him a sidekick, or in addition to the Aqualad sidekick, but. This is like Aqualad's Aqualad in this case.
Yeah.
He doesn't speak in a language that we understand.
Yeah, he kind of makes like Tasmanian devil sounds, which is kind of funny. But there is a character called Lagoon Boy, but he I think just talks normally. I think he's in the Young Justice show, and in comics as well. But yeah, I think this Tram character is completely original. So. Yeah, all that to say, with all the animation, a lot of the other fun is just all the different sea creatures we get to see Beast Boy transform into.
You got them written down?
Let's see let me know if I forget any. So we have shark, we have whale, we have dolphin, we have multiple kinds of squids.
Yeah, I think
we have a crab at one point. Swordfish or a marlin, perhaps whatever the one that has the pointier nose. What am I forgetting?
Dolphin, did you say? I don't know if you said dolphin. Turtle. He was a turtle at one
turtle
point. He just turns into, you can see the turtle shell, and then when he's on land a couple times, he's a hippo and he's a polar bear. And then whatever that really long fish is, it's like when he's going super fast, but that's not the swordfish. So he like turns into this just elongated
a barracuda or something.
I don't maybe barracuda possibly.
Has like little teeth in the front, so that made me think maybe.
And two types of sharks. He's a hammerhead, and then he's just like your traditional like great white.
That's right.
So yeah, that stuff. The animation switching between those shapes. Obviously some of it they do off screen. So he's in one sequence he's a whale, and then the next sequence next time you see him he's a swordfish or something like that. But some of the animation that's done of the shifting that happens on screen is just mind blowing. And then the fact that he spends, I think, the majority of the runtime being the squid, and they give him these anthropomorphic qualities where he's like, make his eyes are way more human, and he's folding his tentacles together, and he's putting his tentacles like on his hips and where his hips would be, and being real sassy. I thought all of that stuff. I was just like, man, what? Just tremendous, like really great stuff.
Yeah, that almost drifts into, and I think this is another influence that that they talk about in some of the special features on the old DVD releases, was like there's also, as much of the anime influence that there is on the show, there's also a lot of like Chuck Jones, Tex Avery, like Looney Tunes in it too, and I feel like that specifically, that sort of the more when he gains like the more human features while still in squid form, when he's arguing and like poking Aqualad in the chest with one of his tentacles while they're arguing, like,
or when he gets the tentacle stuck on his face in the one bit where they're fighting, and the tentacle gets, and Aqualad has to like pull it off, but it's like stuck there, and you see the little suction cup marks on his face. Yeah, that's 100% Looney Tunes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the more slapstick nature to it, just a great so I just think overall visually, I think this is a blast. And like I said, crossing over a lot of really unique stuff. Even like the lighting effects used for Trident, that sequence, they don't really play it too much, but it almost does feel, when they have those couple shots of all of the tridents in the egg sacs, like those, that's almost like it gets towards like Alien or something, like something real, like almost horror-ish for a second there,
for sure.
And as when they kind of look up and the camera kind of pans up to see all of this legion of trident eggs. So and then a little bit I thought a little bit Star Warsy maybe when they're rushing out of the tunnel at the end as it's collapsing.
100%.
And then the ship arrives as well. So yeah, some unique visual stuff in the finale as well. So for all those reasons, I ended up giving visuals and animation a very strong 9 out of 10.
We're 2 for 2 so far. I also went 9 out of 10. I think maybe where the plot was a sort of paint by numbers, the animators just went hog wild with this one. Had a ton of fun. Obviously, when you have a character like Beast Boy on your screen that can just turn into any sort of animal at any point, you're gonna go wild with it. But the fact that one of the things that I love, that I noticed that is consistent, of course, they do not only just the coloration. Obviously, whatever he turns into is always that green animal, but they also, like when he's a dolphin, he has the underbite with the fangs that stick out too. And it's just like the attention to detail to make that part of each animal that he turns into having this like a little bit of an underbite is just really, really funny and really fun. And as we pointed out, just a lot of the sequences, the action sequences, the racing around, the sub, like the sequence where the sub is being chased by Trident, and then Beast Boy is chasing this character in the shadows that he's not sure or thinks is Trident, but actually turns out to be Aqualad. Is that looked really neat also, I thought. And you can't really, I didn't, the T-sub, I don't think that they used too much CGI, if they did use any at all, to really animate it. And if they did, they camouflaged it really well. So everything looks really good. It's a lot of fun to kind of just watch. And there were a couple of times where I chuckled at just the ways that Beast Boy was emoting as his in his squid form. So yeah, really unsurprising that we both gave it a 9 out of 10, I guess.
DC High Volume Batman. The Dark Knight's definitive DC Comics stories, adapted directly for audio for the very first time.
Fear. I have to make them afraid.
He's got a motorcycle. Get after him or I'll have you shot.
What do you mean blow up the building?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
New episodes every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Absolutely. And from there, Cal, we will transition over to music, a familiar name in charge of the music there. As we have Lolita Ritmanis doing our soundtrack. And before we talk about the actual music of the episode, again, since we don't talk about it that often, we got to talk about the theme song here. This is our first episode with the Japanese lyrics themes, of course, performed by the pop group Puffy Amiyumi. The composer of the theme is Andy Sturmer. So we get this it's alternate. The title sequence is otherwise unchanged as far as what we actually see, but the soundtrack gets this cool upgrade, which I have read. I think in later seasons they began to make it as a distinction for if the episode was going to be more serious or more comedic. But I think in the first season here, it's a little bit more just kind of like alternating weeks. When it was airing on Cartoon Network, they would choose one or the other. But as a point of difference here, it does immediately make this one stand out as a lot of fun here, just because I loved the theme anyway. But it's just, again, we talk about the Eastern animation influence anyway. It's like what better if any DC cartoon should have a theme song sung in Japanese, it's this one.
Yeah, it's an all-timer. Like, it is a regardless of whether it's with the English lyrics or with the Japanese lyrics, I think you're gonna have it stuck in your head for some time. It's an earworm that may not leave my head. When we reviewed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a couple months ago now, it was of that same ilk. Like, it is a earworm that will refuse to leave your head, and you will find yourself singing it day in and day out. So prepare your loved ones if you live with anyone, or your roommates if you live with anyone, and just let them know that it might stick with you for a little while and to bear with you. Maybe buy them some earplugs if they're not on board. So, but yeah, obviously theme song is the main thing to point to. But this is a case where this show, obviously our Lolita Ritmanis, one of the dynamic music partners responsible for the actual composition of the music this week, this is a case where we actually have the ability, thanks to a recent release, at least at the original time of recording, of the soundtrack for season 1 of Teen Titans, available on your streaming service, your music streaming service of choice. So I was able to go through and listen to a bunch of the tracks here in isolation, which is really helpful and really nice, especially for me, a show that is so visually interesting. Sometimes you're paying so much attention to what's going on the screen that it's hard to really get into the nitty gritty and isolate those tracks. So it was nice to go back and listen to them. I think the soundtrack has either 6 or 7 specific tracks for the episode. What I really liked, the initial sequence, Trident kind of has this theme, which is very it's very horns and percussion. It reminded me a little bit of the similar composition to that of the like the Maxi Zeus theme from Batman the Animated Series, where it's just drums pounding, and then you get this really deep horn section that comes in, and it's kind of dreadful also, because obviously he's creating this panic for the crew that's happening on the ship. But it's really just like it matches, I feel like, the tone of that sequence of all of a sudden these frightening looking monster men popping up on your ship's deck all at once, and that kind of appearing out of nowhere and stealing your ship's cargo while damaging your ship at the same time. So I really enjoyed that. It's kind of got a marching beat to it. I kind of like that. And then I also the T-Sub theme that they have once they're launching the T-Sub theme also kind of has a military march to it, but it's a little bit of a different tune. Yeah, I like that. I had notes about both of those too. There's a real sort of which makes sense. It's like, adventure on the high seas. Like, it's a bit more heroic when it's our heroes, or when Aqualad even appears the first time, and he and Beast Boy are swimming in the water together. It's kind of a similar motif. I think Trident's, not only is it played in more of a minor key, I feel like there's just a hint of a Jaws theme in it. Like, you just hear like the first couple notes, like you hear like the dun among all those horns and the percussion that you talked about. There's just like every few measures you hear that dun come in when Trident shows up, which I think is a nice little touch there. Yeah, it's a little
yeah, otherwise it does feel, it's funny, we kind of touched on maybe a little bit of a Star Wars or that kind of era of, it does feel a little bit like epic John Williams-y at moments during some of those bits when the T-ship shows up and things like that as well. So yeah, I thought like with the addition of the Trident theme and then the kind of the hero themes when they're swimming under the water, I thought a really strong outing for Miss Ritmanis this week, and I ended up settling on a pretty strong 7 out of 10 for my music score.
Drown the kids and shoot the neighbors. We're 3 for 3, pal. About a 7 out of 10 for my music score. Yeah, I think even at the very end, sort of lightening things up when everybody's friends and Aqualad and Beast Boy are on the same team and they kind of race off towards the screen with that kind of frozen ending that you would find in like a 1980s buddy cop movie, as they kind of freeze at the end as they're running away. I thought that fit really well. So yeah, some really good pieces that obviously, as we've talked about maybe since the very beginning of our podcast, that it's a world of difference when you can listen to these tracks individually and kind of appreciate all the bits without any visuals that are distracting you or any voices over top of them. As fine as the voice actors and actresses are, it's nice to kind of hear those things in isolation and really appreciate them.
Absolutely. Yeah. We hope that this, the rest of this series, as well as the rest of Batman Beyond, would be great to get Superman out at some point. Like, I just want it all. I just want all of this, this great music from these various cartoons to be able to be appreciated. But yes, even if we're sort of being drip fed, the fact that we get any at all is a great plus. So glad that some of our dynamic music partners, great music can be appreciated in a better light. And from there, Cal, that will move us to our final category of the day, which is, of course, our voice acting. Not a big cast, but some. We got 3 big famous guest stars amongst our 5 main titans as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we actually just talked about one of our guest stars who we just heard. We were like, what is happening? Did he happen to show up in multiple times now? Once again, Full House's own Dave Coulier, that guy that had that one song written about him, I believe. Yeah, he shows up in a very minor role here. When did we talk about him recently? Was he in the... one of the Zeta?
He's in a Zeta. Yeah,
he was in a Zeta
delivery bot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I knew we had just talked about him like a couple weeks ago in a weird tiny role, but yeah, I guess Dave was around the recording studio at the time, and got a call back here for this. But he plays not only our ship's captain, but he does the weird ununderstandable, indiscernible voice. From Tram, Dave Coulier, Full House fame, of course, and the Zeta Project fame, above all. But yeah, interesting to see him in any minor role again. Doesn't have a ton to do that we can, I feel like, judge him on, other than that initial ship's captain who's very panicked. But again, very funny to see his name listed there, and the noises that Tram makes are certainly of the charmingly indiscernible.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess looking at his IMDb, he did do a lot of other voice acting. He was on the Real Ghostbusters and Muppet Babies and stuff that I guess would be kind of pre Full House. So he did quite a bit of voice acting pre Full House, and obviously that blowing up, he's done it sparingly since. But yeah, just a random name. And again, it's weird that it's happened twice. If I had a nickel for every time I've had to talk about Dave Coulier on this show, I'd have 2 nickels, and it's weird that it's happened twice, as the joke goes.
There we go. And then I guess I'll go to our villain first, albeit we probably should have we could have saved him for last, as being maybe the most famous of our, at least most famous amongst DCAU fans here. We have our villain voiced by a guy by the name of Clancy Brown. Ever heard of him? Clancy Brown, of course, ironically, as I pointed out before the show, playing another man who lives under the sea. Instead of Mr. Krabs, though, this time he's voicing Trident. went. Of course, Lex Luthor himself, Clancy Brown, most recently a fantastic go in the Penguin HBO or HBO Max or whatever they want to call it series. But yeah, really, really distracting, I would say at times. I feel like you're just waiting for him to say Squidward or SpongeBob or something along those lines. A fine performance from Mr. Brown, but there is no disguising that baritone voice of Mr. Brown's, and they don't even try to disguise it. I feel like.
Yeah. He's just kind of yelling the whole time. That's really kind of the only difference here. Yeah, he's not. It's not doing a ton to distinguish himself from Lex, other than just every line is just yelled, and every line is it almost comes off as comedic, and they do kind of play for that as, again, kind of the big conceit at the end where they trick them into fighting each other with the Trident clones, which is that he's just so pompous and so, again, like one note, and he's just like, I am perfection, I will rule the world. Like he's such a Saturday morning cartoon villain, for all of the kind of the depth and seasoning that something like his Lex has. It's this one is just like let's just go nuts here, Clancy, and he's just like he's just yelling about how he's the perfect being and all this stuff for the whole time. He's a lot of fun, but yeah, not exactly his deepest performance either.
For sure. And then before we get to our two main stars for the episode, we of course will go through our Teen Titans roster, who are mainly sidelined, as we talked about. There's a little sequence at the beginning, and then they of course reunite at the end. But we have Hynden Walsh as Starfire, Tara Strong as Raven, Carrie Payton as Cyborg, and then Scott Menville as Robin. They are all fine, I feel like, in their roles. They are not the stars of this episode, so they are, as I mentioned, mainly relegated to just kind of throwing in a little bit of exposition. And then, of course, Scott Menville, I guess, kind of has a bit of the main role at the end in welcoming Aqualad as a honorary member of the team. And there's a little bit of Carrie Payton at the beginning, kind of chiding Beast Boy a little bit, some comedy, a duo between the two of them, but not a lot for the rest of our supporting Titans here for this episode.
No, not really. They get a little bit of banter at the start when they're all kind of rolling their eyes at Beast Boy being so pompous and arrogant, and then, like you said, the little bit at the end there as they're all saying goodbye and thanking Aqualad for his help. Yeah, I like Carrie Payton and Tram having they're buddies because they're both tech guys. I think that, or like they're both mechanics. Like that's like a fun little gag to throw in there. But yeah, not much for our supporting characters to do other than our two ladies, Miss Strong and Miss Walsh, getting to fawn over Aqualad a little. But yeah, hardly. Yeah, they're just they're not the stars this week. We have two others that stole the spotlight.
That's right. So I guess rounding out our Titans here is Greg Sipes as Beast Boy, and he gets I would say the lion's share of the episode. A lot of bouncing off of our guest star, and has a lot of quips and a lot of he's just Beast Boy. Like it feels very authentic to the Beast Boy character with all the fun that he's having and the fact that he's trying to rival Aqualad and isn't happy with the attention of his female teammates going towards Aqualad and refuses to admit defeat. And then ultimately, I think the fun part is at the end, he kind of gets to flex his muscle a little bit and kind of outsmarting Trident and team. That's where he and Aqualad finally team up as Aqualad follows his lead, and they trick the other Tridents into beating each other up, arguing over who's the supreme Trident. But yeah, a lot of stuff for Mr. Sipes to do this week, and I think he did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny because he was kind of the first, and now he's kind of the only person. I think there was like a young Beast Boy that appeared on one of the seasons of Young Justice, but then like the next season started, and all of a sudden they'd aged him up, and Greg Sipes was doing the voice in Young Justice too. So it's like he's kind of the only Beast Boy that we've gotten in animation. Obviously, there's been a live action one, but yeah, no, he's amazing, and I think this is an example of a character who hadn't really ever been fully fleshed out as far as like what his role is. And I feel like you get the sense, and it's kind of on full display in this episode, which is that, yes, he's the comic relief. Yes, he loves to crack jokes, have a good time, all of that stuff. But it's like he's also just deeply insecure at all times.
Right.
And I think that so comes through in this episode, and how like he's so excited when he thinks he's going to get to be the star of the show, literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
And be the guy who gets to be the one in the water. And then when another superhero that can breathe in water shows up, he's so out of sorts and mad and petty. And like you talked about, like the arguments they're having where he's a squid with his hands on his hips, like arguing with them. And, he's just like so petulant. It's so childish and so funny the way that he kind of bickers with them. And he might have my favorite line or my favorite bit, which is when Aqualad suggests that he usually works alone and doesn't want to work with Beast Boy. And Beast Boy says, "Yeah, me too," while the Titans are standing there. Like it's so funny. I thought that was the way he drops his voice, like he tries to put a little extra bass in his voice. Like, yeah, I'm a tough solo act too, while he's standing there with the rest of the Teen Titans. Like, so just some really funny stuff played off of the how, like I said, I feel like what the heart of this version of Beast Boy is, which is just that he's so insecure and so like, and it just, everything he does kind of drives, like he just wants people to think he's cool, like, but in a funny way, like that. He feels like that character could become kind of annoying, but it never quite crosses that threshold.
Agreed. No, I'm with you there. He walks that thin line very very well, and he gets to actually interact with our co-star for the episode, but our guest star for the series, and that is a fellow by the name of Will Wheaton, who folks are probably more modern day familiar with. I think he's at every single Comic-Con in the United States, from my understanding. But of course, originally probably got his start in the film, the Rob Reiner film in the '80s, Stand By Me, which was obviously a big important movie for that era, and then did quite a long turn, and is probably owes his Comic-Con run to appearing on Star Trek: The Next Generation. And he played Wesley Crusher on that, and other character. It looks like not a Trekkie, so please forgive me, but I think he's come back to various different Star Trek, different Star Trek incarnations since then. It looks like, and he's generally just. I feel like he's like the nerd's nerd. Like when all that, when like in the mid to late 2000s, when like nerddom kind of became more widely accepted and became like a personality trait for a lot of people, he was at the forefront of hosting every one of those like television. He was on a lot of television shows, totally. and was he on one specific one? I know he was on like. I feel like I remember seeing him on like a show where they literally play Dungeons and Dragons on the show.
Yeah, I don't know if that's Critical Role or one of those. I think it's been like a giant YouTube show. I'm sure he's been on that at some point. But yeah, I think he was at the forefront of one of those. I know he did a lot of stuff with like Nerdist, and I think he has his own podcast, and I'm sure he was on like Talking Dead and a lot of those like those nerd shows in that era too. And then I know for some people they might know him best. I think he plays himself on The Big Bang Theory, and he has like a really adversarial relationship with like the Sheldon character on that show, I think. Okay. So I think he's kind of crossed over into playing himself in like a Curb Your Enthusiasm style way as well. So yeah, he's just like you said, he's just kind of is one of the faces of a certain era of nerd culture, no doubt. And as far as for this episode, I think he's a really good Aqualad. Like Like he's got, because at first I thought he was just gonna play it like in my head he just plays it straight the whole time, but
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like the more he's around Beast Boy, he's also a teenager, and so he's a little bit more of a jock about it, but he gets just kind of as petulant and frustrated and petty as Beast Boy does. Like they bring each other down a level of maturity when they're around each other, and that's very funny.
No, I agree. Yeah, they have a good chemistry. That sequence that you mentioned, where Beast Boy is trying to claim that he works alone, and they go back and forth about pointing out that both of them actually kind of don't work alone because they both work in teams. Aqualad obviously with Tram, and him and Beast Boy with the Titans. But yeah, that's great. And them having this back and forth between the two of them. And as we talked about, Mr. Sipes is, I mean, he's obviously the voice, as you mentioned, of Beast Boy, but he's extremely talented. So sometimes when you have somebody juxtaposed against somebody who is kind of borderline legend when it comes to that particular character, going up against them, that kind of like, oh wow, like yeah, they weren't ever gonna reach that level. There's quite the disparity here in the voice acting skills, and that I don't think that would be fair, in my opinion, to say that in this case, because I think Mr. Wheaton kind of holds his own, and does a solid job. And yeah, I believed him as the character, and he does kind of play the straight laced guy, but does have those moments of levity here and there. So yeah, I think he does a great job. I think obviously, as we mentioned, him and Mr. Sipes are the ones that are tasked alongside Mr. Brown with the majority of the voice acting here. But for all those reasons, I ended up giving voice acting a very strong 8 out of 10. What about you?
Well, it's a clean sweep here on the show this week, as I also gave voice acting an 8 out of 10.
Wow.
And yeah, how about that? Not again, sometimes we have the same final scores, which we will this week as well,
Yeah.
but rare that I think it matches up this perfectly that often. But as we do like to remind people, we do share DNA, so it's not impossible with this every once in a while. And with that in mind, Cal, that will tally us up to our final score, which if I have done my math right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I should have a final score of, hang on,
29.
29 out of 40 for the both of us.
That's right. I do have 49 too.
Yes. How about that? But yes, like we said, for Elseworlds, we don't really do the rewatchability test because obviously we're not watching the whole series in order. But yeah, as far as like, is this a good episode to check out or to revisit if you're going back to Teen Titans? Yeah, it feels pretty standalone in that it's just the Titans have an undersea adventure and they meet a new friend. But also if you're going to be watching the whole series, yeah, Aqualad comes back a whole bunch of times. So, yeah, it's an important episode to the series. Even though, again, we don't really do rewatchability for the Elseworlds, we're still talking about it.
Yeah, I would concur with you. I think if the character is recurring on the series, and this is the episode that introduces him, I feel like that's a pretty pivotal reason, like a must watch. And then he comes back multiple times and plays a pretty big role, or at least a semi important role for the rest of the series. So sure, yeah, it's 2 thumbs up for me.
Absolutely. And that will begin to wrap us up. Now, as Cal mentioned earlier in the show, for a certain level, our super friend tier over at buymeacoffee.com/DCAU review, one of the perks, as Cal mentioned, is that you can ask us a question for the show each week. And with that in mind, we have a question once again this week from our frequent listener and question asker, Zach.
That's right, Liam, and I love this because this is just kind of proof that if you also want to join the Super Friend tier and get your question in and asked before you record, you can steer the ship, so to speak. So despite the fact that we talked about how this is an episode that mainly focuses on Beast Boy and Aqualad, Zach wants us to go in a different direction, talk a little bit about something else. So I love this. By the way, Zach, before he asked his question, mentioned that he had not seen Teen Titans before this week. So this is his introduction into Teen Titans. So welcome, Zach. Hope you enjoyed it. And he actually said he really enjoyed it. So I guess maybe if we review in the future, Zach will join us and maybe have additional questions. But his specific question this week, Liam, says his question is about Cyborg. He says, I don't know much about him, but isn't the right side of his face metal? At the 427 mark in the sub, he scratches that side of his head. Does he still feel the sensation? I love the depth of nerddom of this question. What sense would it make if the character's part cyborg, part robot? Why would he scratch the side of his head?
Well, I think this is classic. This is, what do they call it? Phantom limb syndrome. You know, like you could people that, you know, amputees and people that have lost limbs or parts of their limbs will report still sometimes having the sensation, the nerves or your brain still doesn't quite understand, or parts of your brain doesn't quite understand that the thing isn't there anymore, and you can still feel it or feel an itch or something like that. So I have to assume that's just the case. There are some episodes in the series, and maybe we'll cover one later, that do focus more on Cyborg's sort of struggle with his the man versus machine elements of his character. But yeah, I think this is like a classic Phantom Limb. It's actually quite tragic now that Zach's pointed this out, that he's he still sort of has that sensation, an itch you can never scratch.
Yeah, my thought was maybe it was just like, when you rub your head when you're trying to think or you're confused or something like that. It's just because, as you mentioned, he is still part human. He's not fully, he's a cyborg, but he still has the human aspects to him. He still has a human brain. He's still at least partially made up of human feelings, thoughts, and actions. So I think some of it is just the human side of him just reacting and emoting in a way that is he was used to when he was fully human, I guess. But I absolutely love that question, because Zach had the freedom to ask that question. Like, you asked the question, it's about the episode, and guess what? We're answering it because, Zach is a supporter of the pod at the Super Friend level. So if you'd like to join Zach at that level, head over to buymeacoffee.com/DCAU review, and you can be as obscure, as long as it applies to the episode, you can be as obscure as you want to as well. And I promise you, we will answer it here on the air, just like we did with Zach. Zach, keep the questions coming. We love it. Thank you so much for sharing this week.
Absolutely. Always great to hear from Zach and any of our other Super Friend tier supporters on buymeacoffee.com/DCAU review. As mentioned, that's one of the best ways to support us financially. Another way you can do that financially is to go to the notes, to our show notes on whatever app you're listening to. You can head to our store and pick yourself up a hat or a mug or a sticker, and perhaps support us that way. We always appreciate that. There are also plenty of free ways to support us. The easiest ones being, hey, whatever you're listening to us on right now, go ahead and make sure you're subscribed to us. If it's one of the podcast apps that lets you give us 5 stars, give us the full 5. If it lets you write a review, write a review. We know that's a little bit time consuming, but all those steps do definitely help bump us up in the ever changing search algorithms on all of those podcast apps. You can also head to our YouTube channel, our new YouTube channel, where we post our new episodes and are slowly uploading the back catalog as well. You can find a direct link to that in the show notes as well. Go ahead and give us a subscribe, even if you're not really listening to your podcast on YouTube. We would appreciate if you just subscribe to the channel. We also got shorts and little clips from episodes that go up there. So please support us that way. That's a great free way to support us. Another one is just to make sure you're following us on whatever social media platform you choose, whether that's Twitter/X, whether that's Instagram. Those are the 2 big ones. Or some of the other ones like Blue Sky, Facebook, Threads. You can find us on all of those places at DCAU Review on everything. On some of those lesser used ones, it may take us a little bit longer to respond, but we will get to you at some point. So definitely reach out to us on there if you have any thoughts on what you'd like to hear us review next. And Cal, after this trip to the Elseworlds, I think it's time to get back to the DCAU proper next week. And we're finally going to be delving back into a series. Technically, depending on who you ask, is this the fourth season of a show we've been covering since episode 1, or the first season of its own thing? I don't really know the answer to that anymore. But anyway, we're talking about the new Batman adventures starting next week.
That is right, Liam, and it has been quite the time. It has been quite a while since we reviewed this. It's been I think 4 or 5 months at this point. If you don't count our little trip to Metropolis with the World's Finest crossover, but it's been a couple of months, and excited to head back there as we delve into a very memorable episode because it's the actual technical introduction and explanation of the new Boy Wonder, the secrets of his past and how he came to be in Tim Drake's introduction, or at least backstory introduction to the show, with the episode Sins of the Father. Man, I have not seen this episode in a very long time, and I am very excited to cover this one. It's going to be a blast.
That's right. It's your kind of show, Puke Face. Not a double feature, but that's where the line comes from. Anyway, yeah, we're talking about Sins of the Father next week. Can't wait, as you said, even though technically he's already appeared in Holiday Nights, which we covered last December. This is the actual origin episode for the DCAU's Tim Drake. Very excited to talk about all of that with you, Cal, and with the listeners. So until then, I'm Liam.
And I'm Cal.
And we'll talk to you on the next episode of the DCAU Review.
Bye-bye.
DC High Volume, Batman. The Dark Knight's definitive DC Comics stories. Adapted directly for audio for the very first time.
Fear. I have to make them afraid.
He's got a motorcycle. Get after him or I'll have you shot.
You mean blow up the building?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
New episodes every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts.